Hello, hello, hello. I'm so happy that you're here. If you are watching this, you're going to be watching it after it was recorded, but I had the most amazing thing come through this morning, and I was so excited about it because today we get to talk about one of my favorite topics, which is desire, pleasure, all of those things. So for those of you who aren't that familiar with me, my name is Stephanie Mosikowski. I'm an intuitive empowerment mentor and creative healer. I work with women, creative entrepreneurs, innovative leaders, those who are just outside the box dreamers. That's my jam. Women mostly are my clients, but I also have a few men who I work with that are absolutely wonderful as well. So today we are going to talk about pleasure principles, owning desire, which is actually the foundation for manifestation. So anything that we want to create, anything that we desire in our lives is going to come through the connection with that and the ownership of that. And those principles and that the feminine manifestation energy of that. And I'm not talking about gender, it's the feminine principle of, it's the art of manifestation that is in all of creation. So before we begin, I kind of want to just take a little bit of time to just settle in and ground, release anything that was going on before you joined this space, for myself as well, so that we can really just arrive in that space. Because when we're talking about desire, we're talking about experience. We're not going to be all up in our head. It's really connecting with, it's dropping into the heart, the body, the womb, the yoni, all the things. But it's really about being present in the experience of right now in the body. So as we go through, we'll be connecting in that way too. So before we begin, let's just take a moment. We're going to do some grounding breaths that kind of put us into that relaxed state. This is the same breaths, breathing practices that I do in my energy sessions also, because they just help to ground and bring us to this space. So we're going to begin. You can kind of just settle into wherever you're at, just get comfortable. You can put your feet on the floor. That really helps with grounding, or whatever feels comfortable for you. Just kind of feel into that. If you want to place your hands somewhere, a good space is the heart in the womb. I love that. You might just do heart. Today, because we're working with manifestation, these are root principles. These are their root wisdom that's being channeled through feminine wisdom. And so I'm going to connect with that more like grounded root earth energy. So whatever you feel like is good for you, we're just going to take a few moments and go ahead and do that. So we're going to breathe in. So I'll give you a space to kind of just do this on your own. We're going to breathe in through the nose all the way to the belly. We want to let that belly expand. That's our womb space. That's all that creative energy. So let that expand fully. Kind of hold it for a minute. Just feel that fullness. And then you're going to release through the mouth with a sigh or whatever feels right for you. So let's just go ahead and take a few moments to do that, and then we will begin. So go ahead and go at your own pace, breathing in through the nose. As you exhale, allow your belly to kind of bring itself in, let out all that old stagnant air, whatever you're holding there, whatever's been going on in the day. A lot of times when we go through our day, we kind of constrict our stomach, and we want to let all that go because we're connecting with this beautiful space and experience and body today. Take a few more. And as we go, kind of get these intuitive urges, and release is sometimes necessary. So kind of notice if you're holding within your body any stagnant energy right now, anything that feels tight or too much or constricted. There's something going on there. So we're going to take some extra exhales that are really deep. So funny, if you just heard that loud exhale in the background, that was actually my big she beast. She was like breathing along with us. All right, when you feel ready, kind of arrive back in that space. We're going to reconnect back and forth as we go through too with the body, because this is really important. Kind of take a moment to notice anything that's going on. Okay, let's begin. So the first thing that's really important is that when we're talking about pleasure, desire, manifestation, we're getting in touch with what we're wanting to call in, what we're wanting to magnetize, attract, what we want more of in our life. And I mean, who doesn't want more pleasure, more desire, more sensuality? We're not just talking about like sex though. And we're going to go through that. That is an important part of it, but there's a whole alignment that happens with these principles. So the first thing is that we really need to give ourselves permission to own our desires, to own what we actually want. So the biggest thing that I come across with clients, and what I've really had to work through also within myself, is that we have been taught, we've been conditioned that desire is shameful or something to be avoided. A lot of spiritual systems, the all love and light philosophy, spiritual systems really teach like disowning, overcoming, denying pleasure. That it isn't really important. That's not feminine wisdom. That's not earth wisdom. That is not creative wisdom. That's something else, and there's no judgment about that for whoever chooses those paths. That's okay. That's their right. But if we are, and you are, because you're watching this, and you're participating and taking this class, you are a person who wants to own their desires, or wants to at least explore that. And how we connect desire and pleasure and fulfillment to manifestation, the things that we actually get to create in our life. And I've been working with this a lot lately, a lot of manifestation magic, or magic, but the energy of manifestation, and how we kind of work with the principles of the universe, and we draw things to us. And it's really about working with the universal creator, with nature, with everything that actually exists. So this is so exciting to me because I just love this topic. So when we kind of dive in, we want to think for a minute. We're going to kind of begin with a principle, and we're going to start with the root, which is why I did I was doing a lot of grounding, because we're going to start with the root. So because I do work in energy work also, and my background is a lot in energy work, I work with alignment of energy along with belief systems, because we have to align body, mind, spirit, soul. We have to align those things. They're all important. So the shifting of energy and connecting with that energy, which it is actually an energetic container, just like we're creating right now. I'm creating this intentional container to explore pleasure principles, owning desire, manifestation. That's the sacred container that we're kind of in right now. And within that, there's energetic principles that go along with that connect with our energetic centers, chakras, however you may identify them. And also the belief systems, those power principles that go along with them. And then how we actually become that in the world, how we allow ourselves to embody that. It's about embodiment. So it's the energy, it's embodying that energy with our belief systems, and then also with action and allowing ourselves to receive those things that we really want. So in exploring this, we really want to look at, and if you have a journal, I journal everything. If you have explored any of my writings or my work, you know that I explore a lot of healing, transformation through the medium of writing, and channel a lot of feminine wisdom or goddess wisdom, sacred, divine, source, however you might identify. But I channel a lot of that through my writings. But I also, a lot of my inner stuff is worked out through my writing. So if in this you want to go grab a journal or something to write with real fast, you can. Or you can always replay this later too. So the first question, and these are questions that I have like walked through that inner guidance and wisdom and connecting with guides, is first to just begin to explore. And I would recommend that as that this is a masterclass to kind of give you some of those foundational things that you want to explore. But the exploration and the discovery and the answers that come to you will come on your own. They'll come through sitting with these questions, with silence, because they come to us when we're in a relaxed state. And then we begin to embody them when we get some of those answers. And then we incorporate some of these power principles, pleasure principles. I just love that term. We all should have more pleasure, and we do not allow ourselves that. 5 of my planetary signs are in Venus. 4 of my placements are Taurus. So if you know anything about that, you know, like, pleasure is everything. Love, abundance, beauty, like good food, sensual surroundings. Like this is all my zone of all the things that I love. But we each have those things that are unique to us, and they're really important for a thriving life. So when we're sitting, the first thing that we begin, because this is always about a curious exploration. Well, what do I desire? What do you desire? And allow yourself to sit with that for a moment, uncensored. And in asking this, we start to receive. We start to receive little tidbits. Sometimes they come slowly. Sometimes they come really quickly. Sometimes it takes me a long time. This morning, I went through this flow of information, which led me to this class, which usually I do one-on-one work. I don't do a lot of group work. So I thought, like, this is so exciting. I get to do some group work, something a little different than what I usually do. And it was just really cool how it came together. So in sitting in silence, however that is for you, if it's just sitting in nature or maybe meditation or whatever feels right for you, begin to ask the question, beginning with that, what do you desire? And then you may receive a little tidbit of something. What's also going to come up and I feel this coming through. What's also going to come up is your shadows. Because for those of you who are familiar with shadows, shadow working, which is a large part of what I do, in the work that I do, in the mentoring and coaching and energy work, is working through shadows. And they are exceptionally transformative and beautiful. I love the work. Because when we start to ask these questions about what we want to create, it's that light energy. What also comes to light is going to be our shadows. So the thing about shadows that sometimes we don't actually realize though or recognize is that because we think about shadows, they're shadow working is like the part of our psyche, our conditioning, the things within us that maybe we deny or reject, or maybe we have been taught we're wrong, or just conditioned to believe, or somehow like we don't really want to look at that. There's a lot of experience, trauma, if those are things that have been experienced in your life. Those things come up, and that's where compassion is really important in this process too, because owning desire is also about owning all of who you are, not making yourself wrong. You're not wrong. Nothing is inherently wrong. It's the consideration of, am what I'm doing, or what my desires are, what I'm creating, whatever it might be, is this in alignment with my heart? Does this feel, it's about feeling, what does this feel like for me? Am I harming anyone? Am I harming myself? Am I harming life or the earth, nature? But really, they're not inherently wrong. And the shadows that come up they're part of human experience. You are a human, I am a human. We are learning, and these things are going to come up. And this is really wonderful because it's an opportunity in this kind of like treasure seeking that we uncover some of those shadows, because they can be transformed, they can be transmuted. And what we discover underneath them, which sometimes we don't actually, I don't actually hear this talked about a lot. In most circles that I've seen talking about shadow work, we're always talking about that dark, what I say dark is not negative, it's shadow working. We're talking about the fears and the anger and the traumas and the experiences. However, what often is not discussed within shadow work is also what is hidden in the shadows underneath all these layers of stuff, shame, all of that stuff, is actually our deepest desires and dreams. The things that we would love to most create in our lives, and the things that actually are meant for us. What you desire, what you want is meant for you. But those things get hidden under all these layers of shadow work, or shadows. The shame and the feelings of unworthiness, and a lot of religious and cultural conditioning come into play in this as well. For me personally, a lot of the shadow work that I've had to work through had to do with religious conditioning, with a complete disconnection from the sacred beauty and creative power of the feminine, and the feminine as an energy, and also the female body. And this I'm not talking about breeding children, although that may be part of it. But so what we're looking at also is, when we're asking these questions, we want to look at those shadows. So when you ask that question, what do I desire? Is there any shadow coming up? Is there anything that kind of makes you uneasy about it? There probably will. There has been, for most of us, there's some stuff that comes up. So then we ask, well, what feels true for me? Because when we say feel, this is where we're talking about desire, pleasure, manifestation, connecting with these pleasure principles that really like make our life amazing, is learning to connect with them, which means feeling, which means connecting with the body. It means emotion. It means all of these things. So, what feels right for me? Because sometimes we reject something because we've been taught that, or somebody has told us that, or we're like, oh, what will somebody think if I like acknowledge this thing? But it's really connecting with, does this like feel right? Does this feel good? That's part of connecting with these pleasure principles, because we need to reconnect with that instinct, and intuition. And instinct, like what feels good for me, what feels pleasurable, what feels sensual, all of these things, because we lose that connection. Most of us lose that connection as children, especially women, but men also, in however a person may identify as gender. We have all experienced those things as children, where we, and most of it's not intentional. Most of it, is parents or people around us who, they've been raised with certain beliefs and they have their own wounds, and they're human beings too, and they pass on these really negative ways that we disconnect from our instinct. I'm going to take a minute to breathe into the heart, because there's a, just take a moment to connect with your heart space and breathe in. The heartbeat that connects us to everything, to the universe, to the earth. So going back to what I was saying about kind of that conditioning, that instinct, what this really is it's learning to reconnect with our instinct that we might have at some point in our life lost. Not lost, it kind of became buried beneath these other things. Because instinct is like a connection with, this is part of survival instinct. But we become disconnected from the body and pleasure by the ways that we sometimes have been taught to disconnect with what feels right or wrong. And this can be something as simple as when we're children and maybe a parent or a relative or something has said to us, oh, go hug, this uncle or that cousin or, whoever. And maybe we really didn't want to, but it was like, don't be rude. And so even though we didn't feel like doing that, we still did it. And over time, these patterns begin to disconnect us from instinct. And there's many ways, which it can't be really explored here, but there's many ways that this happens. The first of those, so I'll give you an example, because we're going to kind of explore this first principle now. This is sexual desire, because this is where we begin. It's the foundation. It is root. It is earth. It is our root chakra, energetic center. It is our root that connects us to the earth, and that primal instinct, which is, and many of you know the terms, Kundalini, or we're talking about life force. It's that primal life force energy, the yoni, and it's the portal to creative manifestation, and also it's sexual desire. It's not just there for procreation, which many of us have also been taught. So we need to explore that power principle. I and you can word it however you'd like. I desire sexual desire. I want sexual desire. This is owning sexual desire. So this is going to be one that's going to reveal a lot of shadows. I'll give you kind of an example of how, I'll tell you, like in my own childhood, like I said before, it was like very, very dogmatically controlling religious belief systems. And I remember as we're moving into that real sexual energy around puberty, this is when this also comes up. So it was sometime like right before that. But anyway, my mom caught me masturbating. And I felt ashamed of it. And she wasn't like mean to me, but she did shame me for it, because she was like, this is wrong, this is sinful. Even though this feels good, you shouldn't do it because of this thing. And then all of these, so it's like, oh, so like it feels good, but it's wrong. And even though I want to do it, and so we really get this disconnection from instinct and from that sexual desire and sexual pleasure. So explore a little bit. What does that mean for you? And sexual desire actually can unveil quite a bit. Because this is that primal, like, and I'm not talking about going crazy with it, because there are, we have to have a balanced way of being. That's why it's important to explore kind of all of these principles, because it's not just about sex. But manifestation is sexual energy in many forms. But it's about exploring what you desire sexually, and allowing yourself to feel into, to imagine, experience what that actually is. And what type of things are you drawn to in that way, and allowing yourself to do that without shame. Because and obviously I'm not talking about situations that are non-consensual or abusive or anything like that. I'm talking about consensual adult relationships, or sexual interactions, or the ones that we have with ourselves, which also has to be consensual, I guess. But so kind of getting back in touch with that. What is that? What do I desire? Do I allow myself to receive? Because this is about receiving. It's about connecting with the body, experiencing, receiving. Because this is also connected to the art of manifestation, because manifestation is not forcing. It's not chasing after. It's not those have some aspects and are important in some areas. But what it is about getting in touch with allowing ourselves to receive pleasure, receive sexual pleasure. Because that's the first principle that we're talking about here. That was kind of channeled to me this morning. What do you desire sexually? And exploring what that means. And then, again, allowing those shadows to come up. Because when we explore that, there's, I would say, very few people who have gone through life without some really deeply embedded wounds, wounding around sexual desire and sexuality. It's a lot of the work that I do with clients, women specifically, around you know, what we have a right to, what we have a right to receive and ask for and claim. It's about claiming desire. So think about it. Sexual desire. And as you ask these questions, again, this is a feminine explorative discovery journey that you go on. I'm not here to like provide you with all the answers. These are kind of foundational principles that you can kind of explore, because that's the feminine way. And also, you are your own wise guide. You have wisdom. You have an internal mentor. You have guides, however you connect to them, higher self or whatever feels right for you. But you have that available to you. And we just have to allow that space for those answers to come through, because these are important, because these will, once we allow ourselves to embody this, it starts drawing things to you. Actually, perfect example. And you're here, so I'm going to say it on here. So as I channeled some like basic things this morning when I was like in deep meditation, and then I was like, oh, I'm so excited about this. I you know, like this is a topic I'm really comfortable with. And probably am drawn to in a lot of healing and transformation that I do with clients and within my own life. So I was kind of getting ready, and I was thinking like I'm embodying this whole, because to me, this is a sacred energetic container that I create. So I'm like, okay, let me vibe it up. Like I have to get in touch with what this feels like so I can create this space intentionally. And so my partner was getting ready for work, and I'm doing my own thing, and he was doing his own thing. And he went to walk out the door, and he was like, hey, you want an O before I go? And I was like, well, yes. But there was a story in between that. And this is what we have to watch for. Because the story was like hesitation. Like, no. But then I was like, oh my God, this is a synchronicity for this masterclass, because why would I say no? Like, why would we reject pleasure or things that like we actually want? So those are things to think about too when it comes to sexual desire. Are you kind of like turning it away, or you're kind of like and not allowing yourself to receive, or maybe there's guilt there, shame there, feeling unworthy. There's a lot of things that can really come up, but owning it, own. Give yourself permission. So that's the one. So the second of those, which moving up, if we're talking energetically in the chakra system, is the sacral chakra. So that's our womb space. That's all the creative stuff. And I say womb space. Again, these are energetic spaces. As women, if you identify as a woman, we naturally connect as embodiments of this. But these spaces also exist no matter how a person might identify as gender-wise. So that's the sacral chakra. So what this is, and this is going to be a space that's going to take a lot of exploration probably. This is a space I take a lot of extra time on with clients, specifically when I'm doing energy work. I do a lot of clearing work. A lot of things related to trauma come up. That space is the space that holds our most magnificent creative energy, whether that's literally birthing life or just the energy of creation. That is the feminine principle of creation. The ability to gestate and birth life, whether that's a creative thing or, a child or gardening, whatever, you're creating. So that is the ultimate creative space. What's also held there is emotion. And this is where the exploration is going to be really important. And I do a lot of this work with clients and healing, because when we are blocked here, we have a lot of like blocked emotions that we store here in this space. Old experiences specifically related to trauma. And if any of these things that we're talking about become triggers for you in some way, please know that you can walk away temporarily, allow yourself to be with those, or if you need to, find somebody that you can talk to about that, because some of this, when we're exploring pleasure, there's things that come up that we have to really work through, and that has to be something that you do in whichever way feels right for you. But that center is creativity, emotion, past experience, trauma, sensuality. So it's holding a whole bunch of stuff there. And sometimes we have to clear it out. And that's really also that belly breathing that we're doing, because what we're doing is we're opening up that space. We're bringing new energy in through the breath, through the heart, down through the solar plexus, and then in. And then we're releasing and letting out that stagnant energy. We have to do that energetically, but we also need to do that emotionally and, through different ways that we heal. However, however feels right for you, therapy or energy work or some type of healer or mentor or someone who really has knowledge on the things that maybe have been challenges for you. A lot of that work that I've done from my own experiences and traumas and things like that, I walked through alone, and it took me a lot longer. My background is in trauma work, and so I'm grateful to have had some of that knowledge along with the energy work to be able to work through those. I did also have other supportive spaces during that time, but a large part of that was worked through on my own, and it would have been so much easier. When I say not easier, it would have been more supportive and loving and compassionate, probably, if I had more support in that way. So if that's something you feel like you need, please seek that in the way that feels right for you or resonates with you. But when we're talking about this second pleasure principle, we are talking about sensual desire and pleasure. So when we're talking about sensual desire, pleasure, we're not talking about that primal sexual energy. Sensuality can mean many things. And this is actually I think this is the most expansive space, energetic space for that exploration. Because sensuality can mean so many things. I say I'm kind of hedonistic by nature. I actually very am. Much so. So sensuality, can mean many things. I love like good food. Food is sensual because these are about experiences of the senses, of being in physical form, enjoying, finding pleasure in the life that we have right now. It's always right now, these pleasurable things. They could mean many things. They could be sitting in nature. They could be good food. They could be a hot bath. They could be running if that feels really sensual to you. They could be getting a massage. There's all kinds of different things that different people find sensual and pleasurable. It's about connecting with the experience of the senses in the body. So something as simple as having, a loved one like rub your arm or rub your back, those are sensual experiences. And not only do they bring us pleasure, but they also connect us with intimacy also if they involve other people. So along with that, allowing yourself that pleasure is actually like seducing the artist within. When I say the artist, I mean the creative, however that kind of plays out for you in your life. It's about what we are able to create and manifest, because it's like bringing in more of that, more of what we want, more of what we desire, because energy flows where attention goes. So if we are focused, on, and I'm not saying you can't live your entire life just like in the pleasure zone. That leads to addiction and other things. But I'm talking about balance, and because most of us are depleted of pleasure. We're depleted of like things that actually feel pleasurable in our life, because our culture doesn't support that. It's go, 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 work really hard, be burnt out, like all these things. So I want you to really own that. I want you to give yourself permission to explore what feels sensual and pleasurable to me. And this can involve creativity too. Creativity feels quite pleasurable to me. I love that experience of being like so engulfed in that flow when I'm writing or gardening or anything that feels like very creative to me. I'm always in the plants, so that's a big one also. When I'm in the garden, it's just like the day flies by. So it's about what's unique to you, what feels right for you. So that's the one thing. Owning your desires. It's the pleasure principle of sensual desire and pleasure. Create a little more of that once you start exploring it. I invite you to explore. I mean, how fun to explore, like, oh, I wonder what I desire. I wonder what brings me pleasure. I wonder what feels sensual. That can mean so many wonderful things. And then giving yourself the permission to invite more of that in, to create space for more of that, because you have to create space for it. And as you begin to allow yourself to receive those things, what you're doing is you're stepping into that powerful, receptive, feminine manifestation energy. So you're drawing in more of what you're focusing on. So if you're focused on like some old negative bullshit over here, like I'm not saying that you're creating all of the challenges in your life, but that will draw kind of more of that focus in that area in a lot of things in that way. Because these are universal laws. That's how it works. But if we're like, ooh, what can I do today that is so pleasurable? And, man, what can I find to do in my day that feels sensual and beautiful? And, that's drawing that in. So that is the second. The third principle, pleasure principle, is creative power. So we're flowing up from the root. And think of this, a lot of my work, a lot of my writings, what I do, it's focused in earth wisdom. Earth wisdom, root wisdom. It's really connecting with the principles of nature and creation For me, witchcraft, although if you don't identify in that way, it's fine. You can find that somewhere else, whatever resonates with you. But it's really connecting with the earth, and the principles of nature, our intimate connections with nature, and which has to do also with desire and pleasure and manifestation. So we're flowing from the root up. The root, that yoni space, flowing up to the sacral. That's the womb space. And then we're flowing up, solar plexus. Boom, we hit that fire energy. This is the creative power. Because we go earth, water, solar plexus, fire. We're hitting that creative, powerful energy of like the action of, because once we identify, what do I desire? What feels sensual? What feels pleasurable? Then you're like, oh yes, I can. Oh yes, I can create this. And it's that active fire energy that is not only transformative, but is extremely creative once it's focused on something. If it's not focused, it can be very destructive, actually. It kind of like burn everything up. But if it's focused on on like action, what you're intuitively being guided to do, this is an important part of that. Pleasure, the pleasure principles. Sorry, I had to just make my dog like stop eating her foot. So creative power. You have the power to create more of those things, those pleasures in your life. And taking the actions. You have to take the actions. You can't, so as you explore and become your own huntress, like pleasure huntress. Oh, I love that, pleasure huntress. As you begin to explore that and you come to some of these answers like, oh yes, I want to explore that. That's nice. Then you take the actions, and it's owning, it's all that pleasure principle holds worthiness. It holds that I am going to do this because I'm worthy. I'm worthy of having pleasurable things. I'm worthy of having my desires met, of receiving good things in my life, of manifesting the things that I actually want to create. This is a very active, beautiful energy. You will also uncover some shadows there. And so kind of just allowing those to also come up, because we don't have to be afraid of shadows. Fear is actually a big thing in the arena of pleasure, because a lot of those shadows, they're always fueled by fear. Things that we've been taught, or maybe I'm not good enough, or when it comes to sexual desire, there's a lot of body stuff that comes up for many people, but women specifically. Feeling comfortable and at home in your own body, your ability to be that beautiful, creative, sensual, and sexual being without feeling shamed or feeling like you're not good enough, because you're created magically, exactly how you're supposed to be. And kind of that ownership of it. Like, okay, well, I know some of these things, so now I'm going to take the action. I'm going to create space for that. I'm going to add those things because that's what I want, and I'm so worthy of it. And also, this plays into manifestation in a fun way, because we're moving through, I don't know if you connect with elementals a lot. I use elemental wisdom quite often. So it's earth, water, fire. Now we're up to fire. So that earth energy is that grounding, that it's the just state. It's kind of like that seed that's waiting, like that sexual energy is like ready to burst. Which can be so much fun. But that fire energy is going to be that active energy. So it's actually like taking the actions that intuitively feel right for us, feel good for us, incorporating these things that we really want, which leads to manifestation. Because it's not about forcing, it's about kind of sitting with, okay, well, let me explore. What is it that I want? What do I desire? What's pleasurable? And then we're kind of like, okay, well, so here's my intention. I'm going to direct some energy at this. I'm going to clear out some of those shadows, or maybe just sit with them. It's not about denying them in any way. It's just integrating them. And then kind of surrendering and taking the action when we intuitively, when there's a synchronicity. Like this morning when I told you. So, which was so fun because I was like, oh my God, this is such a synchronicity for what I'm doing, because this is what came up and I focused on this morning. For whatever reason, it was channeled through. And so this is what, as I was getting ready, I was, getting all in this vibe of it. And then that synchronicity, we're looking for synchronicities to align with our desires and our pleasure and the things that we own. Yeah, I want that. And then when the opportunity presents itself, such as it did this morning, then you're like, okay, snatch that up, got that. And then you end up creating a lot of those things, and how much fun that is. So then after I do want to mention about the solar plexus. And there's actually a lot of solar plexus stuff that's coming up right now in our world, having to do with specifically transformation. I've been working in a lot of fire energy, fire magic lately, for transformational purposes, also manifestation. But they actually go hand in hand, because when we're wanting to manifest something, we also have to be willing to kind of transform through that fiery transmutational energy. Any of the things that are holding us back, any of the limiting beliefs, any of the shadows, any of that old conditioning, any of the things that we have been told or taught that maybe we accepted, but maybe it's just not true for us anymore. And so allowing those things to kind of be burned away, to release them. I use fire really often for different ways, because it's so powerful. So just keeping in mind that there also will be, as you go through this process, there will be some shadows, but it's well worth it to kind of dive into those. Within that solar plexus, that creative power, that I will, that's that warrior energy. It's like man, it's just a strong warrior energy. Like, man, I could do anything. Like, I can have all the things. And you actually can't. You can't have all the things in the world, but you can actually create the things that you specifically desire, which are unique to you. So within that, what's also going to come up a lot of times is within that fire energy, there's going to be some rage there. There's going to be some anger there. There may be some old feelings of kind of struggling with worthiness. Am I actually worthy of having these things, or creating these things, or receiving these things? So those are things that are really going to need to be transformed in that space. And these are all things that I kind of go through too in my own journey, because I've had to work through like a whole bunch of shit. And I will continue to, because that's, we're meant to evolve, we're meant to grow throughout our whole lives, and to be a student and to be a teacher, depending on what, just comes up for us. But working through my own journey, and the mentoring and coaching that I do with clients are addressing a lot of those belief systems also, or kind of that stuff that kind of hides in the shadows. I really love shadow working for that reason. And energetically, with energy clients. That has always, it's clearing out that old stagnant stuff, so that we can bring new energy in. We can bring that vibrant, unconditionally loving, joyful experience, which is quite transformative. So kind of just be aware of those things. They may come up, they may not. In some areas you'll experience a little bit more than others, because that's just how it works, depending on what our unique experiences have been in our lives. So once we're there at that solar plexus, then we're gonna move up to that heart space, that expansive. It's the heart. I mean, it's what connects us to everything. To me, and the way that I move through the world, that heartbeat is what connects us to the earth. It's what connects us to all of creation. We are all created from that same source of creative, unconditional love. You know, the earth nurtures, supports all. We are created so beautifully, you know, as sacred art that the creatrix, universal creator, however you may identify, has birthed into the world for a purpose. And part of that is pleasure, desire, manifestation, you know, like nature teaches us that. Nature is always seeking to become its fullest potential. And animals aren't just like on the daily grind all the time. They enjoy life too. Like, go outside and watch some animals. They love to do all the things. They play, they gather, they eat, they relax, they have sex. Like, we're part of that. So in connecting with that, and sometimes we don't connect like the heart space with pleasure. We kind of separate them sometimes for some reason. But that pleasure principle is that I want abundant love. I have a right to abundant love. I desire abundant love. And what does that mean? Because love is also pleasurable, right? You know, doesn't it feel pleasurable when you are so deeply loved and cherished? And that begins with yourself. It begins with that connection, relationship with yourself, what we have with ourselves and how we view ourselves and how we love ourselves, how we nurture and care for ourselves, how we offer ourselves a space for pleasure, and for creating the things that we actually want, and then opening our hearts to receive that abundant love in many forms. Love is everywhere, all around us, not just in romantic love. I've had the most extraordinary experiences of being flooded with unconditional love, in times when I have been in nature, connecting with the earth, and in times with clients, when there was a deep space of connection and working through some challenges, and I was just flooded with that love for this other human being who is so intimately connected to us. All of us are connected, connected to each other, connected to nature. And so it being willing to receive that abundant love in many forms. What is love to you? You know, is that just beautiful, connected, intimate friendship, communication, snuggling with a partner, or, you know, some loving thing with someone else. It could be with your pets. I mean, I adore my babies. And they offer me so much unconditional love, you know, by just, I'm sitting here right now and my biggest beast is sitting here just laying on my foot. And that's the perfect spot for her. She likes nothing better than to just be next to me, close to me. It's like she lives for her humans. And that is unconditional love too. That is abundant love. There's many ways that we can receive love. So that power principle of, because these are ways when we embody these power principles, what we're doing is we're inviting that in. We're inviting it in because they're where we start to focus on. And we can just choose one and focus on that one for a while and see what comes up. And, it's about exploration. This is not like a masculine goal-oriented, like, I'm going to achieve pleasure. I'm not saying that like the masculine way is wrong in any way. It has a purpose, like the planning and goal orientation. I say that jokingly, but this is a feminine path of exploration, and exploring, discovering. We become like, we're just discovering. So it's not about like strictly planning how we're going to create pleasure in our life. It's not what it's about. It's about opening to receiving information, receiving answers, receiving abundance, receiving pleasure, receiving desire, and learning how to receive. You have to get really good at receiving, which I have always struggled with. I was the overgiver, caretaker, fixer, saver, all the things. And many of us are. And so I really struggled with receiving and working through all those layers of things that I needed to, shame, like feeling like my value was in what I was giving always, but I never considered that I should also be receiving. The shame and the self-worth and body image stuff, those are things that we all kind of explore as we heal and transform, and we want to manifest these things. So, and there's this beautiful hummingbird that just is flying outside my window. I adore them. And hummingbirds are so significant because they are about right now. For one, they are journeyers. And for any of you who explore my things, I connect really with animals and nature and in those ways. And hummingbird is such an amazing little, because it's fast. It's also really territorial. It's like, I'm getting my sweetness, and I will push anybody out who's like trying to take my sweetness. What that comes down to is pleasure. For them, it's survival, but they're just territorial. But what it also is like, be here right now. Like, what are you exploring, Flying from flower, you get your sweetness, you get your pleasure, and you go to the next flower. And they're always like tasting the sweetness of life, right? That's what you want. That's what I want. That's what we actually need it. But I say we just have to own the desire of it. So, that abundant love, that power principle of abundant love, kind of moves on to, and I focus a lot on the lower chakras. I work in, I do a lot of root work. I work in a lot of the feminine energies, which are really like the lower chakra energies, because once those are kind of navigated, it naturally balances out. Root is one of the biggest challenge areas that we all have. So I do a lot of channeling of activation of root energy. But so once we get that balanced heart space, right, because that's the balancer, then we can kind of move on to like the unfiltered truth part. Because a lot of times to receive, you got to speak about it, right? So it's the unfiltered truth. Past the shame, past the conditioning, past the guilt. And do you need to tell everybody about it? No. Like, I'm not gonna scream through the neighborhood, this story of this morning, whatever. I'm saying it on here because this is what we're talking about. Pleasure principles. Power, pleasure principles. But it's being able to also, because the word has power. What we speak, we create. That is known through ancient times, the power of the word, or if you follow any type of earth-based spirituality or witchcraft or anything like that, you know that spell casting, ritual, conjuring, like any of the things, those are all using that power of the word. It's not just like what you're physically doing, if it's some type of ritual space, but it's really about the power of the word. Word is vibration. It's energy. It vibrates into the world, and it draws in whatever that is. And it also clarifies to others around us what we want, what we don't want, what we will accept, what we will not accept. So when it comes to pleasure principles, owning your desire, you have to be able to speak about those things. There's so many, there's so much shame, and shame is really a huge one, actually. Shame and guilt, because we are like, oh, all that shaming that many of us experience in childhood, especially if you grew up in really traditional religious backgrounds. Shame and like pleasure are hand in hand. Like, you're not supposed to like want any of the things. So being able to speak about those things without shame, like if you have a sexual desire, being able to speak that, or meet it yourself, but if you're interacting with another person, being able to speak that to them, owning what you actually want, what you desire, what you find pleasurable, what you want to create more of, what love looks like to you, what it feels like to you, how you best receive that. These are learning to speak in an uncensored way that's just it's just allowing us to be who we are. These amazing, creative, manifesting pleasures, creating beings. But we gotta learn to speak it too. Anyone who knows me knows that like I speak all the inappropriate things. What other people view inappropriate, I don't find inappropriate. So I guess they're sometimes viewed that way, but it's more just like owning, who we are as part of creation, and what we want, what we desire, what we want for others. I want these things for everyone. I want every woman to be like, oh yes, pleasure, desire, manifestation, life. That's what I want. That's what I want for women, and that's why I really enjoy working through a lot of this work too, with mostly women, but whoever I'm working with, but because it's, man, that transformation is so amazing. It lights me up to see other people be successful, and what they're really wanting to accomplish. So, unfiltered truth. Say it. Say it, girl. Say it, woman. Say it, you. Say it. Whatever it is. Pleasure. Own it. Own what you want. And that can be many things too. I do want to mention this because when we're talking about pleasure, sexual pleasure specifically, it's related to the earth. It actually is the energy of manifestation, because it is that earth energy. It's what becomes manifest in the world, is that energy. And that also, that includes, bodily pleasure, bodily health, safety, security, but it also includes money. So don't skip that. Don't skip that one, because there's so many messed up ideas about money, and I carried those so heavily in so many different ways in my life. A lot of that coming from the fact that I grew up in really extreme poverty. And so there were these really deeply embedded beliefs about money that we have to work through, and being able to own and not feel bad about the fact that we also want money, because money is a resource. It not only does it just provide us with the basic things, but it can also, it's about experience. Myself, I don't really require a lot of material things or physical things, but I want to experience a lot of things. I want to experience pleasure. I want to experience sensuality. I want to buy quality things when I do buy things, which isn't like on my top priority list, but I want to own those things, and that requires money. Experience a lot of times requires financial resources, and that brings pleasure. So we're going to go ahead and include that in there. And man, there will be so much stuff that'll come up when we think about how money and pleasure are related. So that in itself is an interesting exploration. But include that in there, because whether we want to admit it or not, our world is financially driven. Does that need to be an obsession for us? No. But it's the recognition that it's a resource, and it abundantly flows through our world. And a lot of the things that we want to experience require resources. So include it. So once we connect with that unfiltered truth, we have to also, that's moving up into, and that's where we, I don't go into elementals in that way, but that's where we move up into like the upper chakras, third eye and crown. But if we're talking energetically, but these principles, regardless of whether you work in energy work or even care anything about it, you can still use the principles. But that unfiltered truth, then we kind of just begin to like flow up and up. So but we're always rooted and connecting with that intuition. That's third eye stuff. So the sixth of those power principles is trusting yourself. That's intuition. That's feeling into what is right for you. So it's a little different than instinct. But it's those intuitive urges where we get synchronicities, or we've been thinking about something and then it pops up, and we're like, oh yeah, that's the right, and then we doubt ourselves. Those are the shadows that are going to start coming up, is a lot of self-doubt stuff. You can trust yourself. It's usually, this is what I tell clients, and I have to remind myself, the first inclination that you have, the first answer that comes up for you is probably going to be the right one. Like if someone was to ask you, like, is this right or not right for you? Your initial answer is probably going to be the right one. We doubt ourselves a lot. We've been taught to doubt. We don't pay attention, because intuition is also a sensing. It's a sensing of what feels right. It's our connection to all things. This also includes intuitive gifts. And if a person kind of, if a person is in that space, this also would include like intuitive gifts, like clairaudience or psychic abilities and things like that. But what or intuitive abilities, channeling, lots of different ways that can come through. Again, this is a cool exploration, because you get to discover and figure out, well, how does this look for me? What's true for me? And it will be different for you. But it's that learning to trust yourself, that what you feel, what your heart feels, this is not going to be logic and mind stuff. That the logic in mind it has a purpose for sure. It's meant to kind of provide a structure and a support for intuitive urges, for heart urges, for pleasure urges. So it's learning to trust yourself. This includes the yeses and the nos. So saying yes and no. Because when we're really getting focused on owning pleasure and power and pleasure go together. Power, pleasure, desire, manifestation, what we actually want. Abundant relationships, abundant health, abundant wealth. Like, this is all pleasure. What we have to begin to be real clear about our yeses and nos, because that's the essence of receiving too, because we only have so much time and space, and we have to figure out where we want to focus those things. So the yes and no. Does this feel right for me? Yes. Does this feel no for me? Or does this feel like a no for me? And does this feel like pleasure? Yes or no? Do I desire this? Yes or no? Do I want to manifest this? Yes or no? Is this the right action? Yes or no? These are learning to really connect with, and that is also feeling. It's learning to feel into what feels like yes and what feels like no, because there is a huge difference. So the last of these power principles is going to be opening to infinite creative potential. So this is going to be, that's crown chakra stuff. This is our connection to all, connection to the universe, to the universal creatrix, creator, creative genius in all of nature, and what created us. And opening to possibilities. That's what it's about, because our mind will always tell us, like, oh no, that's not possible, or it's very limited in its understanding of, because the mind goes off of what it's experienced, and beliefs and things like that. We're not going into that, but when we open up to this feminine, like the art of manifestation, pleasure, desire, what we're doing is we're opening up to infinite potential to create and receive. And learning to connect with that, it's that sensory, like, I mean, think about it. You're when you connect with that infinite intelligence, it's like the hive. It's like the hive. You're connecting with something that is far greater than yourself. It's within you, but it's also much greater than you. You know, you're part of this huge picture, puzzle. And connecting to that infinite potential. I mean, if you use examples of this in nature, look in nature about look at the magnificent diversity, creativity, art that is in nature, the amazing potential of weather and storms and all of the things. That's what we are connected to. We're connected to all of that. And so kind of opening to that, well, what if? It's asking those questions. That's how we receive those answers as we kind of move through this journey or explore these pleasure principles. Asking these questions, the answers flow in. And that same space, source, energy, creativity, muse, that same thing that we are connecting to and receive those answers is the same thing that's going to help us to manifest what we're trying to call in or bring in. So I'm trying to get my dog to stop licking again. So going back through from root to crown, 7 principles. Sexual desire. This is the ownership. I desire sexual desire. I want sexual desire. I can use another word. I really like I am sexual desire. Because those are the words that I really prefer and I use. Because what we're doing is we're embodying. It's not like I want. It's like somewhere out there. You are. You are sexual desire. So I am sexual desire. I have a right to sexual desire. I am sensual pleasure. And I'm sensual desire and pleasure. And that's what I'm calling in. I am abundantly creative power. I am the creative power of nature, the universe. And I own it. Abundant love. I am abundant love. I give and receive abundant love. Abundant love flows to me. However you want, or what feels right in owning that principle. And the unfiltered truth of being able to speak those things. What do you desire? What do you want? What do you want to call in? Owning it, and repeating it. You can do this through affirmations. You can do this in conversations, through writing. Like, there's so many different ways that you could do this. But those unfiltered truths, owning that. And then trusting yourself, trusting the yeses, trusting the nos, trusting that you know the right answer. The answers are within you. You have your own wisdom. You have your own internal guidance. If you feel like it's helpful to, have some support or some other guidance or mentorship or friends or family or something on your journey, awesome. That's wonderful to have those supports, but always knowing that you are your own sovereign authority, that you know your yeses, you know your nos, you can trust yourself. You don't have to doubt your choices are what you want or what you want to create. It's building that trust with yourself. And your connection to everything. If you guys have read any of my writings or kind of how I connect in that way, that is a big part of what comes through what I do in my work, in my personal life, in the way that I connect in the world, is that we are connected to all. We're connected to the magnificent, unimaginable, infinite creative energy of the universe that created everything. The void of creation, the creatrix. We are connected to nature. We're connected to the universe. We're connected to the galaxies. We're connected to each other. We're connected to every single little form of life, because we all we come from the same source, and we still have access to that. We're a part of that, but we're intimately connected with that. Guides, guidance, however a person may connect with source energy. So those are the 7. I hope you explore those. It's so magnificent to start really owning that stuff. It's wonderful. It creates like a sensual and ecstatic living, being, creating, manifesting. Like, that's what you're meant for. You know, you're meant to embody that, to receive that. I don't know what this dog is doing underneath there. She's like licking her paw off. And I want you to receive that. I want you to have so much freaking pleasure in your life that, you know, like it's just freaking overflowing. Because that's what we're made for. We're not just meant to like live and work and die. We need to have like fun, pleasure, sensuality, sexuality, connecting with that life force, the experience of being, the experience of life and joy and delight. That just, it just attracts more and more to us because we just become that, that magnetizing source. You're a magnet for miracles and all the good things. So really think about that. I would suggest that you kind of take the time as you move through to kind of connect with those energy centers in the body too, and learn to because that's the language of the body, which is also pleasure. Connect with what that energy feels like, and really connect with the language of the body and what's coming up for you, because that's also where there's and exploring pleasure, manifestation and desire. What you're also going to bring up are some of those shadows, like I mentioned, and it provides an opportunity for healing and transformation, transmutation, so that you can actually manifest the things that you actually want in your life. That's required to work through those shadows that come up. So I'm so excited to be able to like share this little space with you. And when it, like I said, when it came up this morning, I was like, oh my God, man, this is going to be exciting. Because usually these are topics that I explore one-on-one with clients and in healing and things like that. So I was really excited to do this. I hope you got a few little things from this that you could find useful. I hope you, as you explore, you really discover some of those answers and things that that are really most helpful for you. If you have any questions or comments or anything like that, you can feel free to email me. There's a contact page on my website, empoweredroots.com. And you can just go over there and contact me. And you can check out some of the writings, offerings, and things like that. And some of the other services. If you, if in working through this, you feel called in some way to maybe receive some support in some area or something comes up, because sometimes that does happen, where things come up and we're like, whew, well, I probably need to work through that. And you feel like it would resonate with you, or it feels right for you to explore that with any of my services or anything like that. Please feel free to contact me or to explore those. But I would love to hear from you if you have any like comments or anything like that. I always kind of love to see how these journeys go. So take a few moments afterwards, if you have the time, to just be in the space. If you have a journal or anything, just kind of jot down anything that might have come up for you, or anything that came to your mind. Because those, even if they only seem like tiny pieces, this is kind of how this process works. As you jot them down, over time, it will unfold. And these little pieces of what you're being offered will kind of fit into like a bigger puzzle, and provide a lot of wisdom and things like that, that are super helpful. That's how I have kind of discovered a lot of things. There's some patience involved there. Anyway, so kind of take a moment to maybe jot some of those things down. Maybe things that you'd like to explore later, like maybe in meditation, or where you're sitting in silence, or something like that, that you kind of like to explore. So I'm so happy that you joined me today. And I will see you either here again or on my website or over on Facebook. You can, right now it's listed as Red She Rising. We'll be integrating names and things like that because we're doing some transitions. But I will see you later. I love you. I hope that you find this week, I hope that you discover some extra pleasure and sensuality and desire and things that you really want this week as we move towards the full moon. So it's fruition time. Bringing desire and passionate manifestation to fruition, which is full moon stuff. So I love you. I'll see you later. And thank you so much for joining me.